Hello and welcome to Soul Space Sessions, Season 1, Episode 4. Julia Frainer with Laurie Bouxley. We are so happy that you are here. We've been having this really in-depth conversation already about the conversation we're going to have here. And so we're just, we decided to hit record and just start right in with it. So welcome to our conversation. Laurie. Yes, I know you're already teary-eyed.
Yes.
You shared an incredible story with me.
We were talking, we've been wanting to talk about embodiment today, which I think wasn't really our plan. We had other things we were thinking we wanted to talk about, but as usual, life presents whatever needs to be talked about at this moment. And so I think speaking this morning about needing to make our YouTube video, we were both experiencing our bodies this morning, and we felt called to talk about embodiment in all of its different definitions. So I was asking Julia this morning, what does she see as the definition of embodiment? Because when I was thinking of it this morning, I was wanting to share about my experiences of being in a body, in a physical body. And I know that we had talked about embodiment also meaning bringing a physical expression and experience to everything in life, to our being here, to our being spiritual beings, to our being priestesses, to our being authentic beings. So a lot of definitions really aren't there to embodiment.
Yes, and I think a lot of questions. Since we started our priestess process and, just what my physical body has been through, and last night going to a beautiful Christian candlelight service for Good Friday, it just brings up the question that, is this a body that we're supposed to be it's disdainful, it's dishonoring, it's fallen, and we've been, as women, for me, have gone through episodes of, and I still have, body image issues, right? And so it's a question of, can we fully embody spirit if we're not fully in body? Like, do we have to have embodiment to have embodiment, right? And
right.
And today, I'm sorry, we have this little bit of delay between us, so you'll have to just pardon us. I know we're so close together, and yet we've got this border and the internet, and we have this bit of a delay. But I just wanted to add that as we started the priestess process, this has really brought this into full circle. And we both of us woke up today having some, I felt like my body was haunted in the sense of the pain was elevated, and the creaks and the moans just to get going today was really difficult for me. And the need I have found for extra sleep, maybe it's age, but is it the fact also that we are embodying the body, and we hear it, we listen to it, we honor it, we respect what it's telling us, because it is the temple, the house of this beautiful divine essence of us.
That's right. And I know that when we are in the spiritual experience, which we often are in priestess, and which many of us are in our daily lives, or in church, or wherever, where we're talking about our connection to the source, that in priestess we're reminded to be the living bridge for people between heaven and earth, but to not stay in heaven all of the time, and to remember that we are having a physical earth experience in this incarnation of ourselves. And I woke up this morning in Laurie Bouxley's body, and Laurie Bouxley gets migraines. And so this is why I'm teary, partly because we're speaking of, Julia and I were already sort of going down the rabbit hole of our journeys physically and discussing past experiences with this and enlightening moments and epiphanies and gritty experiences. But when I wake up in the morning to a migraine and my head hurts, I feel nauseous and all I want to do is be unconscious, there's a part of me that wants out. But there's another part of me that's reminded that this is a privilege. This is where I get emotional. This is a privilege to be in this body. And I'm grateful for expertise that can allow me to remove my pain to a degree. But this is part of the experience. This shadow is the foundation for the light to show. And I know I years ago had a kidney stone, and not having had children, I don't know the pain or the joy of childbirth, but I was told that kidney stones are an imitation of the kind of pain with something far too big going through something too small. And I remember the moment after the kidney stone passed. And I was in the hospital in my nightgown, and I could have skipped home. I did not need a ride. I was so free of pain, and it felt so amazing. And embodiment is about experiencing all of that and seeing the contrast through that. So I've been trying to notice what it feels like to really be in my body, to really be here. And I know Julia and I have spoken about that quite a bit, because you've had painful experiences far more extreme than most people.
Well, pain is pain, right? And sometimes there is a pain that's so inescapable that you do wish that you could escape it. And
Yeah.
and then there's that lingeringness about the pain. And then there's we talked a little bit about self-inflicted pain. And then the question comes up, well, is it possible that our essence, for me, where, being run over by an 18-wheeler and losing both of my legs, do we contract for this? Did I plan ahead in the pre-existence or in a life before that said, yep, I'm willing to take that experience? And then there are things like, Laurie, you were talking about how you have some self-inflicted pains too, right?
Yes. Yes, because I have something that is one of the things I've been trying to do as I'm really trying to physically be here at 54 years old. I'm really trying to allow myself to have this physical experience and to know I have the right to be here, which has been a struggle for me on many levels. And I'm just now sort of realizing, looking back at pictures of that little girl, that my little self, who was so present, or trying to be so present, and yet didn't feel welcome physically here for a variety of spiritual and real reasons. And I have an OCD habit that involves picking at my skin, which is uncomfortable to allow other people to see, but I haven't as yet been able to stop, and I do it mindlessly now. And I hurt my hands and I hurt my feet. And there's visible scars to show that. And so I'm trying now to embrace all of it, the whole catastrophe, the whole experience, all of the joy and the pain, and the fact that I have struggled with self-inflicted wounding, and then the pain of the aftermath of that, when it hurts to walk on my feet, or it hurts to use my fingers, or it hurts emotionally when someone sees it and says, "What have you done to yourself?" That is, I was saying to you, Julia, about how when I see the wounds of your accident, when I see you, I feel First of all, I've only ever known you without your legs, and I don't see you as missing parts, although I honor your experience and understand that I would never be able to understand exactly what it entails. But I see you as whole. You're the whole Julia that I know and love. And yet I was ashamed to let you see my thumb because that felt self-inflicted and shameful. So when I hear messages from, say the Christian upbringing that I had, or the body shaming of women in our society, or I hear other women speak about themselves, I'm of two minds. I can understand all of the need for the need for perfection and the fear of imperfection that we're all experiencing. And at the same time, I can see the beauty of others, and it reminds me of the beauty of myself. Mm-hmm. And I want to get beyond all of that. I want to get beyond all of that myself, so that I can lead the way for my daughters-in-law, because I don't have my own daughters, for my daughters-in-law, for my friends' daughters, for my granddaughters, for the men and boys in my life. I want to model self-love, self-acceptance, without hiding it or having to pretty it up or deny it. It's a big experience, embodiment. It's a journey.
It is. And almost in this discussion of embodiment and listening to you now and our conversation before and my own personal experiences of body image issues, and then losing my legs and still having that. And we're both over the age of 50. And for me, I don't speak for anybody else, but for me, my body is shifting again. There's changes that are happening as I approach 60. There's these feelings within physically that are happening that I have a hard time understanding. I mean, I've heard other people, other women over the age of 50 before speak about that. Or when I was in my 30s, I thought, my body's not going to experience that. And yet our bodies are continually shifting, changing, right? And so we're also dealing with that on top of our youthful things like, your self-inflicted body harm, my small bout in my late 20s with anorexia, and just what we have done to ourselves. And as you mentioned, you've seen me as nothing but whole, and that to me is such a beautiful thing, because I'm working with 2/3 of a body, right? I'm missing that whole lower third, and I know the extra effort that goes into it. So when I say, I'm a whole being within 2/3 of a body, in that physicality of this vessel that my essence lives in, as my essence grows, and I honor that, it is embodying a body that is missing part of it. And yet at the same time, I feel that part, and I feel the aliveness there. And when people say that they don't see me as, missing a third, the lower third. In fact, I had a young teen in Artscape Teens this week, and I was on my prosthetics at the time, and I, how struggling it is for me to get up and to start moving around to get that motion going. And it's a 2-hour program, and an hour and a half in, and I was working really closely with this young woman. She all of a sudden, just the shock on her face, like she looked down at my leg, she had no realization. She was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. Like, and that to me is such a beautiful thing. And if it's any offering out there to just allow people to recognize, and for you and I to recognize, it was a moment of recognition for me, a remembering again that I am whole, I am complete, I am being restored. And it might not be a physical restoration, but it's a restoration that starts within. And that as within, so without, right? That phrase that we've used so much in Priestess, that ancient phrase, that hermetic phrase, as within, so without. It is a beautiful, beautiful experience. And yet at the same time, it doesn't eliminate the pains that we encounter. And yet in the pain, I don't know for you, but in the pain, I've chosen now, to do away with the prescription drugs, pain meds, with my chronic pain, and managing it in ways more natural.
Mhm.
But yet at the same time, when it gets really intensified, it gets really intensified. And I have to then self-honor my body. So I think the point that I'm bringing up, and then Laurie, you can comment on this, is the more embodied I become, the more I have to recognize my body and honor it, where it's at, its extra aches and pains, and how do I manage that. And we know that the body pains affect our mental and spiritual and emotional state too. It's a whole process. It's a wholeness of us, and just having to really
Yes.
figure out ways to manage it all on all levels. That's what embodiment, I think, for me is learning to manage the whole of it, the mental, physical,
Yes.
and spiritual realm of it all.
All of it in balance, right? And in, as we say in Priestess, in sacred right relationship, although we use that for the feminine and the masculine, it seems to me that all of that needs to be in sacred right relationship too. And as you speak, I'm not sure if I could have, this feels a bit of an epiphany to me, looking at it in a different way as you speak. But I think if I were to describe it now, my aging process, there's things about us, like you say, that we never thought would happen to us. I really didn't think that would happen to me. I'm not sure why I thought that I would escape what everyone else experiences. But as we age, and as it becomes, it's irreversible. Some would say irreversible damage, but I think it's irreversible evolution. And that's true for so much of what we're going through. But I wonder, as you speak, has what's happened to many of us been that we are embodying ourselves more, some of us, especially as we age, but also as we learn, as we evolve, but becoming less identified with it, strangely. More embodied, less identified with us as a body. So I feel as if my body is a part of me, is a gift for this physical experience, is the temple of my essence, but it doesn't define me. So there's a freedom in that. It's an interesting contrast, because before I was really embodying myself, and I can't claim to be totally yet, but I'm definitely working on it. I identified with how others saw me, so that my weight, my hair, my approval by other people as to whether or not I was succeeding in being attractive that day or not, or in this way, or to men or to other women, or in whatever way. All of that identified me before. And strangely, as I'm embodying Laurie more, I'm identifying less. And one of the things that's been happening for me, I actually have always admired women who are embodied, women who walk down the street in a way that is obvious they're comfortable in their skin. And my mother modeled that for me, as much as my mother had such self-loathing around her own body and passed that on to me. We would see other women who weren't necessarily conventionally beautiful, but were walking down the street with that pizzazz. So it wasn't that they were thinking I look great to others. It was I feel great in my skin. And my mother used to say, look at that. That is beautiful. And so there was a part of my mother, and definitely that has passed on to me, that can appreciate what that looks and must feel like. And I want that for myself, and I want that for women everywhere. So as one of the things that's been happening for me is that I've always struggled with my weight, and it's tougher for me right now. And given what I'm going through in my life emotionally right now, it's been harder, and hormonally, and all of those things. But one of the things I'm doing right now is giving myself permission, in spite of the fact that I'm gaining weight in a way that I don't love, is I'm giving myself permission to eat,
Mm-hmm.
probably for the first time, really. Not that I haven't overeaten before, but I've never done it from a place of, this tastes good, I'm having this.
Mm-hmm.
And not giving myself permission to be unhealthy per se, or indulging that, but allowing myself to really physically experience what this earth has to offer. And again, strangely, that's opening up for me the desire to eat more healthful things. There's something about my body that's feeling honored now. So I'm sleeping when I'm tired, trying to, and experiencing my headache and eating food that feels good and tastes good, and then noticing, did that feel like an honoring? So I don't know. It's hard to put into words because it is still such a journey and probably always will be. But I want what I see when I see people that are naturally embodying this physical experience without, shamelessly, unapologetically, in a bikini, in their full glory, not having looked in a mirror because they didn't, it doesn't matter. That wasn't the point of putting on a bathing suit. I want to be, I recently got my bathing suit on with all of my worries about how that would look, and got in the pool with my grandkids because I don't want to be that Nana that is sitting on the edge of the pool and can't put her bathing suit on because she can't be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I want more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a journey.
It is a beautiful journey at that. And so again, it's it's that when you were talking about you and your mom, and then seeing a woman that might not on the outside fit in with the way society says that, you know, that physical female body should look or should move or should act, but yet it's that from within, that empowerment from inside that comes out, that that's a
Mm-hmm.
woman embodied, I think, physically embodied. She has that
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence, that self-empowerment that exudes from the inside out. And that's where we're all just trying to hone that back in, right? To be very centered and present.
Right.
And where I want to go as we begin to wrap up this conversation are, and you've kind of touched on a few ways that you embody your body, that you embody your spirituality, you embody the wholeness of you, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that whole, that passionate part, that fiery part of you as well. And that is through experiencing delicious foods, right? It's not that you have to go overboard, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to deprive yourself.
That's right.
Yes.
Or see food as the enemy, or your body as the enemy. Right. It's embracing it all. It's allowing it to exist, and then being able to be present to experience it,
Mm-hmm.
instead of making it all a thinking experience or a shameful experience or a, like you say, a deprivation.
Right. So, as
Yeah.
we get ready to part, I just wanted to leave those that watch this, especially women who may be going through some of the things that we go through. You know, you don't have to be self-inflicting wounds as Laurie has on her body, or missing parts of your body like I am. But I think that even in those states, we can still speak to every woman in the sense of how we've viewed our bodies, body images issues that we've had, physical. We all have some physical pain. We've experienced pain. That's part of being human. That's part of the human experience. And so, some of the ways to
Mhm.
really get deeper in the body, as Laurie had mentioned, it's not depriving yourself, but it's also not overindulging. It's finding that balance. Um,
Mhm.
and I just want to add into that, one of the other things that kind of goes along with that, it's gratitude. Gratitude is so incredibly huge. And to be able to be grateful as you partake in that delicious food that you've wanted to partake in, you know, to be grateful for it, to be grateful for the body that enjoys every taste and smell and touch and sensation, to really hold that gratitude.
Mhm.
Laurie and I had an experience last weekend where we did hand massages for someone else. And that was really a bit difficult for Laurie, but, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as you experienced that,
It was.
and shared that with this other person, you know, there was that self-conscious moment of, oh my gosh, she's going to see my fingers and my skin and what I have done. And yet, from my understanding, as you experienced this and as you shared that in return, you were just filled with gratitude for what you were experiencing.
Absolutely.
For that
And
person.
tenderness, the tenderness. Yeah.
And acceptance. And you didn't have that sense of I have to apologize for, or be ashamed of. You let all that go and replaced it with gratitude and tenderness. So as part of the practice to be more embodied and to find that wholeness, we have to have that gratitude. Right? There has to be that tenderness for self and others, that acceptance, and that desire to see ourselves as whole, however that looks to each of us and to others, to have that desire for whole. What about movement? I think that movement is really huge. Of course, we talked about rest and needing extra rest, but what about movement? And in what ways do you think?
Well, and I think what you were saying about gratitude is really important, and I think that leads to movement for me. In the past, movement used to be something that I felt I should be doing to keep myself fit, not necessarily for strength, although I feel that way now as I'm aging, more for a fitness for appearance. The pressure was there, but now I feel like the gratitude when I look at for instance, my legs, as opposed to when I used to think, or still sometimes find myself thinking about how they look, remembering how grateful I am that I can move, I can stand and walk, looking at my hands and being grateful what they can create, the gratitude towards our bodies for what they can do, as opposed to how they look or what they can't do, or what I can't do as well as someone else. You're right, gratitude is fabulous. And then when we get out and move in nature, and touch the earth and touch the soil and see the colors and move our bodies and breathe in and out, I think all of that can become an awareness of the gift that we've been given, this body that can sense and move and breathe. Yes, I think, is that what you were thinking of in terms of movement? Are you thinking about moving things through us, which is also huge, processing?
In both, because, you know, as we move our bodies, whether it just be in a simple kind of dance movement, which is really interesting, somebody who doesn't have her legs, even on my prosthetics, sometimes I think I can bust out a dance move that's really kind of really very easy, and I never really could. In fact, I'll digress for just a moment so you can get a glimpse of my inability. But when I was 18, I always wanted to take dance lessons, couldn't do that. There's a whole backstory to all that. But when I was 18, 19, 20, in my early 20s, I took dance, and we had this recital, right? And I was in this class with all these other women, and they videoed the recital. And I remember watching the video, and I thought, every single person in this lineup is out of step except for me. And I translate
I love it
into the idea that I think we move at our own pace, our own drum. We dance to the beat of our own drum, and literally dance, literally walk out into nature and see what that's like. That movement, and that physical movement then unsettles the dust of our mental, emotional, and spiritual. It increases the breath, and breath work we know is detoxifying, just as sweating is detoxifying, you know? So all of that is really important, I believe, and it has been for me as I age. Even if I'm sitting on my hiney and doing a couple of really awesome dance moves, like, right? It's
totally, absolutely
out, right? And that is just huge. We bring that movement into our intuitive practice. For me, and I believe for Laurie also, the intuitive practice that we do is intuitive writing, intuitive art, which is more like 4-year-old art, and intuitive movement. All of them together kind of create this wonderful synergetic motion that moves things out and brings embodiment back in.
Yes, and it lightens, like you say, it releases the things that have gotten stuck in us and need to move through, and it lightens everything up. It makes us not hold on so tight to this experience, holding on to the past, holding on to our fears of the future. It allows all of it to move, and really allows us to be present. And I know that in Priestess, our ability to dance now, to dance things through us, I think that is what opened me up to, through you, learning about intuitive art as an expression. And when you think of journaling and art and movement as all movement, the movement of the pen, the allowing it to, what we're thinking, to flow onto the page, the movement of the paintbrush or the scissors, or just the motor, the fine motor movement, even that in itself just allows things to flow through us and out as an expression of us, which means it's not stuck, it's not staying with us, it's not identifying as something when it's really nothing. It's an experience and is allowed to just to evolve us and then move out. So yes, that's so true. Movement is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that the people that have joined us today are helped by the things that we've shared, and are encouraged in their own journeys, as we are when we talk to others that are in this process, or ahead of us in this process, or with us, or who we can see want this too, want this feeling of self-honoring and lightness and embodiment as part of this incredible life experience we've been given. Yeah.
Beautiful joyful journey, right? Joy surrounds the journey as much as it is in the journey. You just look at the word journey and you see that J-O and then the Y at the end, and it just encompasses the whole entire journey. So yeah, I think there's so much more we can add to the conversation, and I'd like to pick it up maybe in the next time. So deeply grateful for you and to you for joyfully journeying with me in not only in this priestess process that we've gone through together, which has brought us together, but just this whole embodying and allowing my essence to have this place. We need each other. We are intertwined. And so
Yes.
Thank you, dear one. And yeah, any closing?
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you for watching.
All right. Yes, thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Take care.
Bye.